Most producers ruin their melodies by adding too many notes, and the damage happens faster than you think. You spend hours layering runs, fills, and ornaments, convinced that more movement means more emotion, but listeners are quietly tuning out before your drop even hits. There is a single principle separating cluttered hooks from the ones people cannot stop humming, and it has nothing to do with your plugin stack or your music theory knowledge. The question is whether you already know which of your notes is actually doing the work. Think about the last melody you were genuinely proud of, and ask yourself honestly how many of those notes you could remove before it stopped feeling like yours. Most producers cannot answer that because they've never had to. Every note feels essential when you're the one who wrote it, and that attachment is exactly what makes busy melodies so hard to diagnose from the inside. The notes aren't failing individually, they're failing as a crowd. What your melody actually needs isn't another layer. It needs one note that carries the whole emotional weight of the phrase, and finding that note changes everything. Strip any great melody down to its bones, and you'll almost always find one note doing the heavy lifting. Not the highest note, not the most dramatic leap, the one that sits at the center of the phrase and refuses to let go of you. Producers call it the anchor tone, and once you hear it, you can't unhear it in the songs you already love. It's the pitch the melody keeps returning to, the one that carries the emotional charge. Think about a melody you've written recently. How many of those notes were earning their place, and how many were just filling the silence? When you take a busy 4-bar phrase and strip it to only the notes that actually hurt to remove, what's left is almost always a single tone surrounded by space. That skeleton version lands harder than the original, every time. And that should unsettle you a little. Finding your anchor tone isn't about writing less. It's about knowing which note the whole phrase is built around. The real challenge is protecting that note once you're back inside of full production, surrounded by every sound fighting for the same space. That gap after your anchor tone isn't empty. It's the moment your listener leans forward. When a melody lands on its strongest note and then holds still, the ear doesn't switch off. It locks in, waiting to find out where the phrase is going next. That waiting is the emotional payload, and most producers throw it away before it ever builds. Every fill you drop into that gap trades a moment of genuine tension for a moment of noise. Think about the last hook that stopped you cold. Chances are it had more air in it than you remember. Rhythmic placement controls how long that anticipation stretches before the melody moves again, and even a single beat of silence can feel like a held breath. But when you misplace a fill, you answer a question the listener wasn't done asking yet. The space isn't a problem waiting to be fixed. It's the mechanism that makes your anchor tone feel inevitable when it finally resolves. So the real question isn't how to fill your melody, it's how to hear which notes are already doing too much. So you've got a melody that isn't landing, and you already know something's wrong with it. The fix almost never lives in what you add next. It lives in what you finally agree to cut. Pass 1. Play your melody back and circle every note that arrives before the listener has time to feel the one before it. Those notes aren't building anything. They're just filling the silence you were afraid to keep. Pass 2. Strip everything down to the single note your ear keeps returning to, because that is your anchor, and every other note exists only to serve it. Pass 3. Rebuild slowly, adding notes back one at a time, and stop the moment the tension in the phrase starts to drop. What you're left with is almost always shorter than what you started with, and almost always stronger. Cluttered melodies fail because they bury that anchor and bleed the tension dry before the hook ever lands. The best edit you will ever make to a melody isn't a new idea. It's a deletion.